One thing that I really want people to think about in our region is this notion that we've got to think big. Because what we haven't had in Cincinnati is companies exiting north of $1 billion. It's great to have a $20 million exit, a $30 million exit. Don't get me wrong, that would change my life. I'd take it any day of the week. But what we need to be thinking about in this region is that we can be the region where we've got companies that are going to sell for $1 billion+.
Today is actually a really exciting day on the What Gives podcast. I have the pleasure of sitting here with Emma Off, the new president and CEO of CincyTech, and then Sarah Douglas, the director at CincyTech. How are you ladies doing today?
Good, I'm happy to be a repeat offender.
We're glad that you are. It's awesome to have you on. And frankly, I just was reading about CincyTech today before this, and I am so amazed at everything you guys do. So today with our listeners, I want them to hear about, honestly, like the impacts you're having and how you guys came to be. So can we start like at the beginning of this story?
Just for our viewers who are not familiar with CincyTech is a lead Series Seed investor who invests in healthcare technologies and digital technologies in our region. So CincyTech was started by local business leaders 17 years ago. A lot of members of the chamber came together and felt and saw a need in our community to have more of an innovative spirit, entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so it's my understanding from Jim Anderson, who's one of, was the CEO of Cincinnati Children's, which is the founding partner of CincyTech and a key partner today. We're so fortunate for our strong relationship with Cincinnati Children's and all the amazing technologies coming out of Children's. But Jim Anderson and others saw this need to help launch kind of novel ideas in the region. And they talked for a while, it's my understanding, and then they felt like we have more here than just things that we're talking about, around a table with some business leaders. Let's put some money behind this. And they hired the first CEO, and his name was Bob Coy. And Bob was with CincyTech for probably about 10 years?
Yeah, he was with CincyTech for 10 years, and then Mike Venerable took over as CEO about 7 years ago.
And Mike Venerable had worked with Bob and was one of his key hires. And so Bob formed CincyTech around a fund in Pittsburgh called the Innovation Fund. And the Innovation Fund was a public-private partnership, which CincyTech is as well. And CincyTech, the first few funds were smaller. I think the first fund was like $4 million. So really, let's try to see what works. And it's a really amazing testament that what I think a lot of people invested in CincyTech initially was more of an impact fund, but what it grew to was actually, wow, we have a team here at CincyTech that can actually drive returns for investors. So what initially was thought of as more of an impact economic development fund became something much more and became a true Series Seed venture capital fund.
So we had this hypothesis that we had technology here that we really could put capital behind and catalyze growth. So in funds 1 through 3, it was really about proving out that hypothesis, and we started to see just the quality of the deals and the quality of the research that we were seeing was just increasing as people knew that we were here and started to come inbound to us with some of their ideas. So that's really when we shifted our focus from smaller checks into a lot of different companies. Into Fund 4, we started doing more focused, larger checks into fewer companies, and just continued to build on what we had done and proved out with Funds 1 through 3.
And I think Sarah hit on an important point about really identifying the deal flow in our region. Some of you, our listeners, may have seen a recent article in the Business Courier that said that UC, based on the amount of research dollars, UC is poised to graduate the next leader of a unicorn out of any Ohio research institution, wow, which is huge. That it might not even just be Ohio. And UC was another one of our founding partners and also very key to the CincyTech relationship. We engaged with a lot of their students, their venture lab. very supportive of what UC is doing with the Innovation District and would love to support activation. And we're sitting right now in the Innovation District. That would be huge for our community as we continue to, activate around here. But we've got, to Sarah's point, we've got a lot of research dollars and not a lot of private capital. So when you have a lot of research dollars and not a lot of private capital, you've got a lot of opportunity.
Emma, I've known you now for a couple of years, and we had a relationship with you working in mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
And you were working on helping people exit, right? Your mother was a business owner, and you then had this passion for exits. So now you're doing this whole startup thing. Can you talk to me about that transition?
Sure.
And how that feels, obviously, being on the other end of things.
By the way, exits are very important to our investors.
Yes,
So I'm still passionate about
That's
exits,
awesome.
by the way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, this was a really exciting opportunity for me. One, certainly that was not on my radar, but when I was presented with the opportunity, I had been exposed to CincyTech early on in my legal career. David Wilbrand, who was a prominent player in venture capital in this region, really served as the outside legal counsel to CincyTech for many years. And David and I worked closely together at Thompson Hine. I worked on several portfolio companies with David. I helped with the transaction that was a large transaction for this region, a Surex sale. And so I was familiar with CincyTech for a long time and worked with them. My passion for private capital, I think many people knew, and I talked a lot about it and why I think it's important for this region. So the transition to CincyTech actually has been really smooth. I mean, I'm dealing with a lot of the same issues I was dealing with in private practice, a lot of the same key constituents, the investors, the board, the founders. So to tell you the truth, some people are like, is your day-to-day that much different? It is different, but honestly, it's a lot of what I was doing. You're not going to pay $600 an hour just for somebody that's not going to, I was giving so much strategic advice and thinking through very hard issues. And that's what we do here. We say complexity is opportunity. I totally believe that. We are helping solve complex problems and helping launch world-changing ideas. I think it might be helpful for our listeners to just a quick one-on-one on kind of venture capital and how do the pieces fit together? Because I find when I'm out in the region, and not just Cincinnati, that understandably so, Sarah and I are in this day to day. And many people don't appreciate all the kind of pieces at play. So quick 101, you got angel investors. Those are usually high net worth individuals that have money and that are really helping to kind of first capital, small checks in. They're not going to be this seed level like CincyTech. So angel investors pre-seed, that's like dad or mom, friends, family, write me a check, $25K. Get me to that next step. Then you have seed investors like CincyTech. And within a seed investor or any other stage that we're going to talk about, you have a lead, and that's the person who's going to set the terms for the transaction. Here are the terms on which we're going to invest, and they will get other co-investors to come in on those terms. But the lead investor is the one that is going to diligence the opportunity, set the terms. That is where CincyTech plays. Series seed would be that first big check. We want a board seat. We want to be at the table, help you take this to the next pivot point. The next pivot point is Series A, and then the whole alphabet of letters as you continue to progress your company. And some companies will exit at different stages. Every company is not going to get to a C, a B. Maybe you exit after an A because you find that opportunity, somebody wants to buy you. So after that seed A, it can depend. You can get down the alphabet, but I think a lot of people don't appreciate the difference in where they are in this stage of the investment and how the lead investor versus a co-investor versus follow-on capital. Follow-on capital will be the money coming in at later stages of the transaction.
Geographically, let's talk about like other areas in the Midwest, or are they replicating this program? It sounds like you originally benchmarked Pittsburgh. Are there other, places doing this, the same model. And let's talk about why it's important too, for our region.
Yeah, I think you see other regions trying to kind of implement more of this public-private partnership model, especially with the SSBCI program, which is actually federal dollars that was distributed kind of to the state level. So there's a lot of similar work kind of happening in Michigan, but I think Ohio is specifically poised to kind of capitalize on this because of the amount of, we have a little bit of a head start with just the amount of imported capital that we've been able to bring to the region, and just the research institutions that we do have in Ohio are really kind of top tier.
And I would add to that our state and the government has been very forward thinking. Governor Taft 20 years ago, with Gordon Gee at Ohio State, led an initiative to create the Ohio Third Frontier. And the Ohio Third Frontier supports infrastructure of venture capital startups. And that has been a very successful program that many states try to replicate and look to Ohio. So the Ohio Third Frontier, that was 20 years ago. And then Governor Kasich hired a gentleman named Mark Kwame, who is in the midst of raising for the Ohio Fund, which will be very additive to Series seed funds like CincyTech. But Mark Kwame was hired by Governor Kasich from California to come start Jobs Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Jobs Ohio was a brilliant idea to take the liquor license tax. It's a private entity, and they have funds that can also support innovation, growth, technology. Jobs Ohio has a growth fund that we work very closely with, and is one of our largest co-investors. And they have a great team at Jobs Ohio. And so we're very fortunate in Ohio to have a system that has been very supportive of the ecosystem. The Ohio Third Frontier will, that program sunsets June 2025. So we're all thinking about what's next.
Right.
And I know, that people are supportive, and we're figuring out what the future looks like, which is an exciting opportunity for people like CincyTech in the ecosystems to be thought leaders with the government.
So what are some of your successes that you can share with us since inception, and things that you're working on right now? Like, what are things that you're really proud about, maybe companies that you're working with to start up, some stories I'd love to hear about.
Yeah, so I think a great testament just to the quality of companies that we have here in the region is the amount of follow-on capital that our portfolio has been able to generate. So we're at currently $1.7 billion in follow-on capital.
Billion.
Yeah, with a B. So I think
super impressive.
Yeah. So, but I think that just speaks to our companies. We are seeding them and helping them start up, form company, helping them with talent. But then they're going out, continuing to raise, and a lot of times that money is coming from outside of Ohio, and it's coming from the coasts, where they do see a ton of technology, and we're kind of right up there with them competing for those dollars once companies are kind of post-seed stage. And then companies that we're really excited about right now might be top of mind given my current state, but we have a company in our portfolio named IAS, which is actually a spin out of Cincinnati Children's Hospital that is developing a neonatal MRI machine. So this was a problem I had no clue about, but if you think about it, you have NICUs, which are often not on ground floor of hospitals.
Right.
And the MRI machines, because of some of the technical constraints, have to currently sit on the ground floor. So if you need imaging done on a neonate, you're talking about transferring some of our most delicate patients down in an elevator. There's a ton of risk that's associated with that. And then once you are in that adult MRI machine, it's really not optimized for these tiny patients, and you can't really get the images that you need. So that's one that I'm super excited about, which it actually allows an MRI machine with higher kind of sensitivity and specificity to sit directly within the NICU. So we're talking about technology that really has an impact on people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, right, the three of us women, do you have, so Sarah, for our listeners, is currently pregnant, and so Em and I have children.
And mine will actually spend 2 weeks in the Good Sam NICU. So IS especially is one that's close to my heart. But another local, this is Enable Injections is going to be a home run for the state, and this is a classic model to tell our listeners. Enable Injection was started. It was a technology coming out of Cincinnati Children's. It was the CEO was an EIR, so executive in residence from CincyTech. That EIR was funded in part by the Third Frontier dollars. So back to that public partnership. So we use Third Frontier dollars to support our infrastructure and engagement of a very talented EIR named Mike Hooven. Mike Hooven goes into Enable Injections. Enable Injections will likely, go public or have an exit. That is a huge success story. Enable Injections recently. So we're keeping jobs here. We're growing jobs here. It's a great example of that public-private partnership. And Mike Hooven and Tim Flaherty, who is the CFO of Enable Injections, they were a dream team that took a company public before Attracure. And so for them to be doing it again is really exciting. And it's great because CincyTech was able to launch that out of Cincinnati Children's and get a lot of private capital around the table regionally. So not only will there be jobs, there'll be a huge headquarters here, but there's also going to be wealth returned to a lot of regional investors.
Emma, you spoke about public-private partnership. For our listeners that maybe want some more detail on that, can you tell us about City of Cincinnati, the involvement?
Yes. We're very fortunate, and actually Sarah and I have been asked to go visit Louisville and talk about how you can really get an ecosystem off the ground like, Cincinnati has been very focused on doing. And we're fortunate that our city, supports the good work that we're doing and others in our community. So the City of Cincinnati gives us grant dollars that are non-dilutive to our investors. And again, that helps support the infrastructure. For a fund our size, and we're on Fund 6, but for funds our size, it's hard to have the size of team that we do, which is a huge selling point for our investors because we can really diligence opportunities and have the expertise in-house to dig deep into these companies that other firms may not have. And that is because we've got public support behind us. City of Cincinnati, City of Mason, other, like I talked about with Ohio, that kind of funding is imperative to making sure that what we're doing at CincyTech and our engagement of EIRs and our incredible team is continues.
So the team in Cincinnati, I know I see the chamber has involvement. Is that right? Are they also kind of coming alongside your team? As well as the City of Cincinnati? So
the Chamber is our third founding partner. So the Chamber has been critical to our success. Brendan Call is the chair of our board. So absolutely, the Chamber is very important to helping us tell our message and why it matters in the region. And for those that are not particularly focused on economic growth, Cincinnati is falling behind. And I don't think that people in our community understand the kind of dire straits we're looking at if we do not do something to change our growth trajectory. When you look up north to Columbus, Columbus is growing. They're getting opportunities. There's lots going on. Of Ohio State, of course, is the land grant state and a lot coming out of Ohio State, one of the top research institutes in the country. We've got to do more in Cincinnati, or in 10 years we're going to look up and I'm afraid be too far behind to make up. So now is the time, and that was something that was very exciting to me in taking this opportunity, is the ability to impact in a small way. We've got to start moving forward and growing, or like I said, I think we're going to be in bad shape.
Let's say I've got this amazing business concept, right?
Sure.
And I'm coming to CincyTech. What's your process? What are the things you're looking for to invest in this startup? Can you kind of walk me through?
Sarah, why don't we first talk a little bit about what we even would invest in, on what stage? Because I think a lot of the listeners may be uneducated. What does it mean to be a lead Series seed investor?
Yeah, so as we're looking at 4 technologies to invest in, we invest in seed stage companies. So what that means typically is we have some form of market validation. We don't have specific revenue targets that we look to hit, but we're looking for really large markets. So $500 million and above in market size. So that's really the first screening tool that I'm using. And this is the hard thing about sometimes evaluating technologies. There are businesses that definitely can and will be successful businesses that may not be a fit for venture capital. We're looking for kind of the highest growth opportunities that really can drive returns for our funds and our investors. So a lot of times that's looking at, scalable to 500 million and above exits in the next 5 to 7 years. So that's a very specific category of company.
Right, it is. Definitely. So about how many a year do you think that kind of take flight or that you're helping?
We invest heavily also in the biotech sector. So some of those deals we're tracking for years with researchers at some of the research institutions, which I think is, something that we're able to do really well because of our team. We're looking at approximately 4 deals a year across kind of biotech. We are willing to lean in and build the relationships with others in the community to help educate them about, what is it exactly that we're looking for. And I'm always happy to take a second conversation with somebody and offer really transparent feedback with them, why it might not be a fit for us initially, and then what can you possibly do to make it look more like a venture scalable business, to come back, have another conversation with us. And I think that that's important for helping first-time founders to really, be comfortable and have a safe place to have those conversations, which I think is really important for our ecosystem to, that's how we get second and third time founders is by having them, develop their idea, create a successful exit to come back and do it again.
It's a fact that if we are not the ones here with the capital to extract these novel ideas out of the research institutions or support the street entrepreneurs that have these ideas, this technology does not reach our world, which is incredible because we are actually seeding ideas that are world changing, not just impactful for our region, but will change the way that a medicine is delivered, enable injections, for instance, or that a premature infant can get an MRI, or that 3D additive manufacturing. I mean, AI technology. I mean, there's so much that we're doing here that truly could have an impact. And if we are not seeding these ideas, they just don't get to the market. And that's mind-blowing to me.
If you're working with somebody that's applying or looking for startup help from CincyTech, and it's a no the first round, has there ever been anyone that's been able to refine and come back? And what does that process look like?
So I think, getting to a yes does take a lot of time. So there are times where we have to set milestones for companies and say, okay, we think that you have something here. And a lot of times we're betting on the person and the individual. And part of our process is giving them feedback along the way. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to get to an ultimate yes, where we're comfortable making an investment decision. That's not every case, but in a lot of these cases, we're investing in very complex technology. So that's really part of our vetting process, is seeing how a founder does take our feedback and incorporates it into their process, and seeing, are they willing to really dig in and do the work to make this ultimately a venture investable opportunity.
And something that Sarah was talking about, our local ecosystem, and there's a lot of change going on. I'm a new CEO at CincyTech, JB Crop, and Chad Summy and his partners at eGateway Capital, which is a later stage growth capital. But the important thing is we've got to be moving forward, not with a scarcity mindset, but with a more is more mindset. And it's very important to me that we're setting that tone here at CincyTech, that in order for our region to win, we've all got to be coming together. We can't be operating in silos. And that means business leaders, our venture community, investors, our research organizations. This is a big lift, and we can get there, but only if we're all kind of rowing in the same direction. So there's a lot of opportunity across the river too, and we're really excited 100%. About bringing this region together and then moving up north. Again, we've got a right to win on some competitive assets here, but let's connect the dots and do it together.
So Sarah, you were talking about, investing in maybe for a year, but talk about how many people actually apply.
Yeah, so inbound, we receive, upwards of 300 applications a year. And then in total, we're looking at probably 500 or more applications, or speaking with people that have ideas. Some of those are further along than others, but we're, speaking to a good portion of those companies and then filtering down into ultimately the 4 that make it to our capital deployment stage each year.
Right.
And I would say when we're talking about opportunities we're looking for, a question that I think a misconception in the community is CincyTech would only invest in Cincinnati. And though certainly that is a very important part of what we do, we are not constrained geographically to Cincinnati investments. We are I think we're the only Series seed investor in Ohio that has capitalized research out of every major research institution in Ohio.
Wow.
Case Western, Nationwide Children's, Ohio State, Cincinnati Children's, Cleveland Clinic, UC.
That's impressive.
So
Wow.
we have launched ideas out of every major research institution in Ohio, and we want to be and will continue to lead as a Series seed investor in Ohio. So for anyone that's wondering, do we only invest in Cincinnati? The answer is no, but of course we have very strong relationships here, and are committed very much so to this region, but we invest certainly outside of Cincinnati. So Aaron, you previously asked, about the transition from my M&A career at Thompson Hine and my work in exits at CincyTech. And one key difference here is at Thompson Hine, I was dealing a lot with the venture exits as well. But when I was dealing with more upstream or family owned, you would frequently have a private equity owning who owned businesses. That was their business. They were in the business of owning and selling businesses. And then you had multiple generation family owned or family owned that was more patient capital. We're owning this for our family. What we're doing at CincyTech is investing in, as Sarah said, high growth opportunities that we're going to exit within the next 10 years. So this is not an opportunity that the founder is going to hold on to for their lifetime. And that's a very different proposition than when you're thinking about owning a business that your children may work in. I mean, that is not what we're doing at CincyTech. What we're doing at CincyTech is investing in ideas that we can quickly get to market as quickly as possible, so that they can start having the impact that Sarah and I were talking about.
We can't be competitive with each other. We really have to kind of all work together, and more is more kind of when it comes to capital, putting capital around these companies that have historically been undercapitalized.
So besides investing and writing a check, what other services do you provide?
So I think something that's really important for everybody to look for in investors is somebody that's really going to be a partner. So we're looking at, a relationship that's going to be, we're in it with you for 5 to 10 years. So you really have to trust who you are partnering with and who you're taking that capital from. So we lean in ways beyond just providing capital to our companies. So we typically take a board seat and actually will maintain that board seat far beyond where most seed stage venture funds will keep a board seat because of the value that we're adding to the company. Where a lot of other funds may roll off of the board a little bit earlier because you have fresh capital coming in. So I think that's just a testament to, the level of support and expertise that we are providing to these companies. We want to be the first call when something good happens, but also the first call when something bad happens.
Another way CincyTech leans in with our partners is not just on the portfolio company side, but with some of our key investors. We offer to our key investors, our diligence team. It may not be a transaction that we're investing in, but we have such an abundance of human capital. They really look to us to be thought leaders on other investments that they may be pursuing. Also with our research institutions, we work closely with their tech transfer offices and activating their innovation arms to think about how can we maximize those novel ideas and how can we kind of help harvest those for our key partners. So CincyTech is both looking to our portfolio company to lean in as a partner, but also looking to our LPs and offering a lot of value that way.
So how do you inspire somebody, right? We're on University of Cincinnati's campus, And how do you find that unicorn or help them to be inspired to think like that unicorn?
You know, that's a really good question, because I encourage everyone to think big, but it's really hard when you can't palpably see, smell, taste what that looks like, because historically in Ohio, we haven't had a ton of unicorns coming out of this region. So I think what I would say to somebody that's listening that thinks, you know, it's easy to say think big, but point to something, it's really, I can point you to a lot of people from this region who have thought big, who are committed to this region, and maybe we haven't gone there, but we will. Catherine Pierce is a great example. She's on our advisory committee, our advisory board. Sarah works closely with her with one of our portfolio companies. And Catherine has a biotech startup, and people have challenged her, you know, you can't do this in the Midwest. And Catherine is saying, I can, I will show you how. She had a venture with MedPace that sold to AstraZeneca very successfully, and we need more people like Catherine that have great success and then want to stay here and show other people you can, you will, not just pay lip service to it.
Right. And seeing that, like, we're all women with kids, right? Like, how, Emma, because you've had such a interesting career path, really, to inspire young ones. What do you think you are trying to work on at home, I would say, for the little ones on this type of career path?
Well, I think it's important that this wasn't a path that I saw. And a lot of people talk that career paths are not linear. And I don't think venture is linear at all. We have companies that come with us an idea, and then they actually transition and pivot to another idea because we realize the market isn't there, but the technology is, and here is how we're gonna go capture a different market. So I think people need to stay nimble in their thinking, stay open, you know, appreciate when you're getting to that big idea, it's not gonna be linear. You're gonna have bumps in the road. You may feel like you've got an exit, but guess what? There's gonna be another on-ramp. And it's funny, my husband, I opened an Amazon package recently that came to our house. We both really like to read, and it was a book. And you mentioned the kids thing, and I opened this package thinking it was a book I maybe ordered because I'm always ordering books to read. And my husband had ordered a book that was Reese Witherspoon Book Club, and it was about how can a partner play more equally on the home front. And I think this shows two things. One thing that my husband realized, the wheels are falling off. I need his support because guess what? I'm passionate about this right now. And so otherwise the nanny, I'm texting the wrong nanny on the wrong day. But two, I challenge people to think about being equal partners too. I think that's really important to supporting somebody's vision. Sometimes one person has to lean in when the other's leading out. But how can we be supportive of our friends, of our colleagues, of our partners? Because big things only happen when there's a community kind of around supporting that entrepreneur. One thing I would say, there's 3 women sitting around here, and we're so fortunate to work with strong women. You know, an interesting thing that I always find about women is statistically, and research says, women have this fear of not going big. They have a fear that if I don't have that skill set, I'm not going for it, I can't do it. But men, research says, they are willing to take a chance. They're willing to take a risk. They're willing to kind of play the imposter until they make it. And I truly believe fake it till you make it, because if you're smart, if you're hardworking, you're gonna figure it out.
I 100% agree.
And men, women, whatever, take that risk, take that challenge, because you're gonna have people supporting you. And if you believe in yourself, people are gonna get behind you.
Yeah, I mean, really, I couldn't agree more.
And I think that's something I've been really fortunate at CincyTech to work with great mentors. Doug Rowe, Mike Venerable, Emma have really encouraged me, you know, to get over the imposter syndrome a little bit.
Yes.
And like, you just have to go do it, and you're not always going to be 100% comfortable or have every single skill that you need to hit the next level, but you have to stretch yourself and you have to be uncomfortable and pretty consistently uncomfortable.
You know, Emma and Sarah, after today, I think I probably need a glass of wine. This is honestly learning more about CincyTech. It's intense. I'm ready to grow as a person because I learned so much. And honestly, it's been a ball, but I think I'm ready for that.
Investing in venture is not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
It's not. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us again.
Oh, happy to.
To learn more about how to expand your philanthropy, please reach out to the Northern Cincinnati Foundation.